All right, welcome everyone. We are so happy to be here with all of you. Thanks for being here with us live right now or listening later. We just appreciate all of you being here and we're wishing you blessings for this like incredible holiday season that we're going through with this amazing time while Venus is in the underworld, and we're going to be exploring this underworld Venus magic and the rare Venus Mars conjunction with the sun. And so I'm Sheridan Semple, and I'm here with Kaylin K. Castell. If you are new to us, and we are Venus Alchemy. So thank you all for being here and just wishing you well. And we're super excited to share this incredible information happening in the sky with you right now.
Yay. And we love, love, love to start out the things we do with an invocation to the current meta goddess who's on the world stage, uh, who is who we're honoring through this Venus cycle. And for those who might not know, we've been honoring this meta goddess as the Aries Pisces meta goddess. And the reason is because some people saw her rise as morning star in Aries, and other people saw her rise as Pisces. So, because of the way she was literally visible, like the day after she conjuncted the sun, or the day she con that I don't know. Anyway, she was quick. She was really quick rising up into the sky. And because we have Saturn Neptune crossing that 29 Pisces, 0 Aries, back to 29 Pisces, back to 0 Aries point. And so Neptune can only do this on every 165 years. Saturn can only do this every 30 years. And so it's like, oh yeah, Aries, Pisces, that's the energy of this Venus cycle because she started her retrograde in Aries and went back into Pisces, and Mercury was doing the same thing. And it was just like everything was pointing to the fact that this was an Aries Pisces meta goddess. So this image that you see here is showing how she is fire and water. She is a powerful expression. And so this invocation honors both the aspect of Aries and Pisces. So this is, if you want to just take a moment and drop in and really feel this, you can come back and we'll have the slides available for everyone, and you can come back and read it again later. But just this is what's going to set up our time together. So here we go. Oh, wondrous and wise, universal mother protector. Thank you for guiding me to release and die to my false self. So I am reborn to my true, compassionate, and courageous self. Thank you for inspiring me to boldly continue taking decisive action that furthers the fulfillment of the divine creation through my essence, existence, and everyday experience, anchored in pure love, justice, and protection of the innocent. Thank you for reminding me I am safe and supported in freely and bravely offering my gifts, my divine gifts from overflowing love, kindness, and generosity of spirit. Thank you for encouraging me to graciously feel the full range of my feelings, including full-on surrender into my sorrow and grief. So I know and experience the benefit of feeling these feelings, no matter how uncomfortable and challenging they are. So I am no longer defined by them, but rather know they are a true blessing, inspiring greater joy and blissful connection in all aspects of this divine creation that is mine to express. I am passionately fulfilling my divine mission and purpose as a heartfelt, joyous expression of sacred service to all life. It is done, it is so, and so it is. With heartfelt gratitude, blessed be.
Blessed be. So, our Venus in the Underworld sharing today, we're going to just go through a brief overview of the Venus cycle for anyone who's new to the Venus cycle. And then we're going to talk about Venus in the underworld, and we're going to talk about the Venus and Mars, all the sky magic of what's happening right now. And then we have some underworld practices and home play. And then there'll be some time at the end for Q&A or sharing anything that you want to ask or share with all of us. So thank you. All right. So just Venus in alchemical astrology, which is what Kaylin and I practice. Venus represents an exploration of the divine feminine, right? Through her many different signs and phases of the Venus cycle. So, from the alchemical astrology perspective, Venus is not limited to concepts like romance, relationships, personal aesthetics, values around money or material possessions. For all of us, instead, really, she is our emerging sacred feminine expression, regardless of how we identify, right? She is, from the Chinese perspective, the yin side of our wholeness, right? So just thinking about, what sign or really archetype is your Venus sign in? It's something you think about. You could put it in the chat if you felt like it, but that is the emerging sacred feminine within you. That's the energy, the archetypal energy, the alchemy of stepping into that energy is what helps you step more into your sacred feminine and the sacred feminine empowering the sacred feminine in the world. So it's
And
pretty,
people are putting it in. So I see Aries and Pisces and Capricorn, and they're going by fast, but
yes.
very
Aquarius
exciting.
evening star. Nice. Thank you for sharing. My Venus is in Cancer. My Venus and Mars are in the underworld, like this, what we'll be looking at today, just opposite in Capricorn. So this is like my signature. So Venus cycle is guided by the ancient story of the goddess Inanna, right? So this myth in quotation marks, because this really is a cosmological explanation of how the Venus cycle works. The story of Inanna, humanity's first written story, right? Just to emphasize that, the very first story we have in the whole world is a literal description of how Venus, the goddess, the sacred feminine, moves through the sky every 19 months. The goddess descends down to the underworld, which is where we are now. That's what we're going to be talking about predominantly today. And then ascends out of the underworld through seven gates, seven chakras. It is a myth with massive implications for our current time, right? It describes the collective descent into and now renewal out of patriarchal culture and inspires our personal initiatory cycles, right? Death and rebirth, the processes as orchestrated by the divine feminine, right? It's a way that helps us reconnect to the cyclical nature of life so that we are comfortable with going to the underworld, having a death to something that's not working for us so we can be reborn into more of who we are authentically.
I love that. Oh my gosh. And I love that somebody put in that their Venus was, I saw, happened to see it go by. Venus is an Aquarius and they're a morning star. So that just what we're going to share here now is that there's morning star Venus. Then she goes into the underworld, which is where we are now in the cycle. Then she's evening star. Then she goes retrograde, goes back into a very quick transition in the underworld and back into the morning sky. So the opportunity we have is when we know where she is in the cycle, we can also know morning star Venus adds fire to whatever sign your Venus is in. Evening star Venus adds earth to whatever sign your Venus is in. The Anana underworld or long underworld, where she's in the underworld for anywhere from 60 to 90 days, is the what you add water to whatever sign your Venus is in. And then in the metamorphic underworld, and it's very short, and there's very few people who actually have the metamorphic underworld, you add air to whatever sign your Venus is in. So this has been something that's helped us to really understand our Venus signature more clearly as where we are in the Venus cycle. And then, of course, if you're morning star, evening star, you might have a Venus gate. And there's so many amazing things that are connected to this. So where we are right now is in the underworld until February 17th. And then Venus is going to rise up into the morning sky. And on the 18th, she makes her first conjunction with the moon. February 18th, she makes her first conjunction with the moon. And then you can see all the Venus conjunctions happening in the evening sky before she goes retrograde. and then will disappear on October 17th, and she'll reappear in the morning sky on October 30th of 2026. And so this is just kind of giving you a sense also that Venus rises up really fast in the morning sky. She descends slowly into the underworld. Then she rises up slowly from the underworld into the evening sky. And then she descends back into the underworld to make her transition into a new expression of the feminine. So,
Mm.
yeah.
And I saw oh, well, it looks like people were replying maybe there. How do you know, wondering the same thing. How do you know if you're a morning or evening star? You have to be able to read the chart and see the way that it turns and see if Venus rises before the sunrise when you were born, or if she's still in the sky and sets after the sun. And if she's within 10 degrees of the sun, then you know she's in the long underworld. And if she's retrograde, she's in the short underworld. So it's a little bit complicated, but if you can see how the wheel turns when you look at your chart, then you can see if she's in the morning before the sunrise or up still in the sky after the sun has set. So it's a little bit complicated to just kind of
That's looking
describe.
at it from the counterclock, I mean from the clockwise position. So the planet, the signs move counterclockwise or are listed counterclockwise, but the way that Venus and the sun and everything's rising and setting is clockwise. So think about it from that perspective as well, and then maybe you can tell. So,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so this Aries Pisces Venus journey, Venus, like Kaylin said, Venus rose in Aries for some of us. Like I saw Venus in Aries, and then most of us saw Venus rise in Pisces, right? Beginning this current cycle. So Venus, she's in this transitional cycle, moving from Aries for many years into Pisces, but we're in this transitional time. So Venus spent 9 months as morning star starting last March, releasing everything in the way of expressing her wise, authentic self. She passed through 8 visible Venus moon conjunctions, which is part of that Inanna story, representing the seven chakras of the body and an eighth chakra, which we call the Earth Star Chakra, or a shamanically inspired death by intent. And here is just an image that I took of Venus in the morning sky over the Ponderosa Pines and the Coconino Forest in Arizona. And it's just one of those spectacular sights when you get to see Venus in the morning or evening sky with the crescent moon. It's just one of those moments that stops you in your tracks and you're like, ah, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. It's just awe-inspiring.
And that one's like Venus and the moon are far apart, and sometimes they're way closer together. Sometimes the moon will actually occult Venus, so they're like goes right over the top of Venus. So it's so that's not always super close, but they're on the same line there. So that and also the waning crescent moon is like a C shape, and the waxing crescent moon is the opposite. So that's another way you can tell. And I've watched different shows, like different TV shows or movies, and they're talking about the moon is this or that, and that they've got the wrong shape of the moon. So now you can pay attention to that too. So
Yes. And so then Venus entered the underworld, right? Traveling behind the sun on November 25th or thereabouts. It varies where we are in our location. And Venus travels with the sun where she is now in the underworld, hidden by the light of the sun, right? Traveling behind the sun, undergoing an alchemical transformation into her true authentic self. So the underworld is always this like catalyst, this alchemical time of change, this death and rebirth cycle of the sacred feminine. And it brings a watery, like Kaylin mentioned, deep feeling element to our divine feminine expression. Venus emerges from these watery depths on February 17th, 2026. So, like for me, I have Venus in Cancer in the underworld. So it's like extra watery.
oh yeah.
So the Venus goddess in the underworld is like the caterpillar in the cocoon, right? This is the alchemy. Aligned with the sun, she is undergoing an alchemical transformational initiation, transmuting into her powerful butterfly self. So it's an opportunity that we just get to transmute something within ourselves, right? We don't fix everything, not everything magically changes, but we get to let go of something that's not serving us so we can embrace and step into what does and aligns with us.
Beautiful.
Yes, I saw Eileen, same date as the eclipse, right? So this whole like Venus rising into the um evening sky with the eclipse is like this whole other amazing thing that's coming. So go ahead, Caitlin.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Venus Moon conjunction happening right because it's a new moon eclipse, and the Venus Moon conjunctions in the evening sky happen right after the new moon. The Venus Moon conjunctions in the morning sky happen right before the new moon. So yeah, it's pretty magical of what's happening there. Now Anana in the story, and they're basically describing what Venus is doing, goes into the underworld. And in part, the story is described as she's going into the underworld to mourn the death of the great bull of heaven, meaning that the spring equinox was moving out of the constellation of the bull, moving into the constellation of the ram. And that was representative of the beginning, the end of the matrilineal time and the beginning of the patrilineal or patriarchal domination that was emerging. And this was um, I don't know what 5,000 years ago, almost 5,000 years ago. So we are at another death and rebirth of an age, and this one is really designed, in my sense, and I feel like this whole Venus Mars conjunction with the Sun, and we're going to talk about this and with some other things that are going on, is really embracing wholeness of both the masculine and feminine. So it's not a matrilineal line, it's not a patrilineal line, it's uh, as Rowena Patty Kreider like to call it, synarchy instead of patriarchy or matriarchy, but synarchy, the synastry of the two together. So that's exciting.
Mm, very.
And then, so we begin the evening star journey on February 17th, though, depending on your horizon, you might see her before that, or you might not see her for a while. And part of it is because as the sun sets, there's the red glow on the horizon and as the sun at the time of sunset. And Venus is often in that red glow, and you've got to know where to look to see her. It's not like when she comes up in the morning sky, it's like you cannot miss her. She is so bright and she's so there. So again, we've already said this, but she spends about 9 months as evening star, and she's reclaiming her authentic, fiercely compassionate divine self. And there are going to be 8 Venus Moon conjunctions. So the first will be the 7 chakras in the body, and then the eighth we look at as the soul star chakra above the head, and that it's representing the ascension gate, or how we are ascending into our higher self, or our embodied self is connecting more to our ascended higher self that's already there. Anyway, so and then Venus will disappear into the metamorphic underworld on October 17th and reappear in the morning sky on October 30th. So that will be the beginning of a new Venus cycle. So this Venus cycle is lasting until the 29th of October.
Hmm. So Kaylin had mentioned this, like the elements of the Venus cycle, and we're in this underworld water time. And I had read this amazing quote, which I've shared with some of you in our group before, by Yasmin Hernandez in the book Daughters of Latin America. ¿Qué misterio encierra el agua del Dios la escogió como elemento para la transmutación del alma? And that in English means, which what mystery does water hold that God has chosen it as an element for the transmutation of the soul? And I just love that for our underworld journey.
So, something to know before we dive into the more specifics of this Venus Mars conjunction is that there are 3 repeating patterns, and these patterns may change over time, but this is what's currently happening. one of the patterns definitely connects to the story of Inanna and Dumuzi. And in the story, from the Sumerian texts that have been translated, when Inanna comes back into the evening sky or comes back from the underworld, she has to choose someone to go in her place. And Dumuzi wasn't didn't even notice she was gone. He was like, we didn't even- he was just like having a good old time, and then he sees her, and then he's like, oh, and she's like, your turn. And he has to go to the underworld. What happens is Venus and Mars meet in the morning, in the evening sky. Venus is going to stay there for like 9 months, and Mars is dropping into the underworld and disappearing and he's in the underworld for like 4 months. So this is their meeting. So when Inanna and Dumuzi um, sends Dumuzi to take her place in the underworld, then she just gets to be in her glory after all of that takes place. And this occurs when Venus and Mars have a short connection in the evening sky, visible in the west, and then a long morning connection visible in the east. So Mars always disappears into the underworld soon after the evening union, while Venus remains in the evening sky for a few weeks. And a union is defined as within 10 degrees. So they don't have to be right next to each other or really close. They can be within 10 degrees. And the reason we use the 10-degree orb is because when you put your hand out, your fist out, and you have a planet on either side, that is 10 degrees. So it's like that's like it looks conjunct in the sky. It looks close enough. So that's why we look at it that way. So
And
then
Lori, I see your Venus is at 6 degrees in Leo and your sun's at 26 degrees. So they're 20 degrees apart. And so your Venus is not in the underworld, but she is in the morning sky, morning star. So you're like extra fire, Leo, Venus.
yes, because 6 degrees would rise before 26 degrees. So
Yep.
she's definitely in the morning sky. So the second pattern is the Sun, Mars, Venus conjunction. Now, something to think about is every single one of these patterns, every three of these three patterns all occur within 6.5 degrees from each other, but they only repeat every in the same place in the sky every 32 years. So another reason why this is a significant time. So this is what's happening on January 6, 7, 8, when Venus and Mars meet with the sun, the source of light and life for our planet. The sun is why we can live here in the way that we do. So it's definitely sourcing something new. And if we think about Venus and Mars finding a new way to engage in sacred union with each other. And then Mars is shifting from the evening sky to the morning sky, and Venus is shifting from the morning sky to the evening sky. So it's like they're coming together, they meet, and then they shift into the opposite place of the sky. And because they're both on the far side of the sun, like we showed in the earlier slide, that they are not visible for a long time because Mars doesn't become visible until March. I think like the 14th of March or something. So anyway, so they're and then Venus will become visible like a month before that. So like I mentioned, it's been 32 years since Venus and Mars have been together in this with the Sun in Capricorn. They come together. There is every 6.5 years, the Venus and Mars and the Sun will conjunct, but only every 32 years in the place in the sky they are right now. So
Mm.
it'll be 32 more years before it happens again in this place in the sky. So the third pattern for Venus and Mars is they join together for a long time in the evening sky. And this is usually when Venus is retrograde because Venus goes retrograde in the evening sky. And then Venus enters the underworld first, and then Mars follows. And then they make at least two conjunctions as Venus goes through her retrograde. And then when Venus retrograde conjuncts Mars at 4 Gemini, on June 13th, 14th in 2028, and then they will rejoin for a short morning union on September 7th in 2028. So any one of these three unions will occur every 77 months or 6.4 years. Again, the 32-year pattern repeats. So these are the three different patterns. So we are in the underworld pattern currently. And this is the one I feel is the most exciting in terms of how Venus and Mars can create a new way of doing um, sacred union.
Mm.
So, yeah, so if you think about the underworld union, and this is the sky map here for January 6, 7, when they meet with the sun, and they're just so close. It's amazing. We won't see them, of course, but we have technology that allows us to see how close they are together. So Mars will entered the underworld on November 12th when it was 15 degrees from the sun, because Mars, when it's 15 degrees from the sun, is not visible. Venus and Mercury and other planets are usually 10 degrees from the sun and they're not visible. Mars then will rise up on March 16th when it moves 15 degrees away from the sun. And so it's in the underworld for about 123 days. So you can see it's longer than Venus because Venus is only in the underworld for about 83 days. And she went into the underworld on November 25th. And she went in later and she comes out sooner. Mars is there for a longer time. And Venus and Mars, of course, are meeting on January 6th, 7, 6, 7. So my 5-year-old grandson loves it when you say 6, 7. He just gets so excited. 6, 7, because it's the dictionary.com's word of the year. 6, 7. And it doesn't mean anything. It just was some rapper put it in a song and people started getting excited about it. And and he's turning 6 in April, so he's especially excited about it. But here we have Venus and Mars meeting on January 6th and January 7th. So maybe that's the secret code that was being activated that people didn't really know about. I'd like to think so. So, yeah.
I love that Danielle says, ha ha ha, 6, 7 in my house too. Nice.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so every 32 years they come together in Capricorn. And so the first one, January 2nd, 1930, you can see I put the degrees here. Venus and Mars were at 3 Capricorn. Saturn was there also at 3 Capricorn. And they were 8 degrees away from the sun. On January 4th, 1962, they all came together in Capricorn at 8 degrees. The sun was at 13 degrees. Venus and Mars were 5 degrees from the sun. But something that was interesting that was also happening at that time was the Aquarian stellium of Saturn at 0 Aquarius, Jupiter 11 Aquarius, and the South Node at 18 Aquarius. Age of Aquarius? I mean, it's like some would say, I think wasn't the song come out around this time in the 60s about the dawning of the age of Aquarius? Anyway, but it's not based on where the sun is in the water bear because it doesn't happen for a while yet. And the water bear, also known as Aquarius. Anyway, and then on January 5th and 6th of 1994, they were at 13 Capricorn. Mercury was at 17 Capricorn. The sun was at 15 Capricorn. That was pretty close. Neptune was at 20 Capricorn. Uranus was at 21 Capricorn. Venus and Mars were 2 degrees from the sun. So there was a huge Capricorn thing going on back in 1994. And something that I find interesting is that there was a lot of things going on in 1994, but one of them was Nelson Mandela was elected president after he'd been released from prison, I think in 87 or somewhere around there. And then in 1994, he was elected and inaugurated soon after that conjunction. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after this conjunction. January 7, 8, Venus is at 18 Capricorn, Mars is at 18 Capricorn, Mercury's at 9 Capricorn, and the Sun is at 17 Capricorn. Very close. They're only 1 degree from the Sun at the exact conjunction. But they kind of hang out there close together for a few days before and after the exact conjunction.
Mm. And Christine, if you're still here, just know that we're talking about all these details, but we're going to talk a lot about like how to work with this energy and what it means as well. So just let the details roll over you, and we'll be getting
And
into.
if you're hearing them, it means they're being infused into you, and then that becomes something that helps with the more interactive exercises we're going to do.
Yeah.
So the Sun and Venus are exact on January 6th at 16 Capricorn, in the Archer constellation, not uh, Sagittarius, because it's the seasonal sign of Capricorn, but it's in the constellation of the Archer, also known as Sagittarius. So just trying to get that, um, so that people don't get them confused. And then the sun is the source again of light and life for our planet. So we have them meeting in sacred union in the Archer, and it's yeah, so January 6th, which is interesting because it also happens to be the day of the Magi. So this is the day that in the Catholic tradition they celebrate the Magi going to visit the Christ child. And so it can be a big day from that perspective as well.
Hmm.
And then January 7 is when Venus and Mars make their exact conjunction, and they're in square to Chiron and Eris. Eris has to do with chaos, and Chiron has to do with deep shamanic healing. And Jupiter is in opposition to the conjunction and square Chiron and Eris, so making this T square configuration. So it's basically Jupiter's expanding the chaos and the deep shamanic healing to help create new, healthier ways for Venus and Mars to relate first to themselves and then to each other. So something to also think about is um, that the sacred feminine, a healthy sacred feminine is represented by earth and water, and the masculine is represented by fire and air. And if we think about these different qualities, the healthy expressions of that, then what is possible at this time as Venus and Mars meet is that the archetypal feminine and masculine that exists within all of us, regardless of whether we're a woman or a man, um, is that there's a chance for these to now come to work together in a way they haven't necessarily worked together before. So Venus and Mars with the sun, sourcing a new way of relating to each other, going through the death of the old and rebirth into the new. And so this is how are we now sourcing new ways of engaging in sustainable relationships that serve the future generations. This is about restructuring the relationship between the masculine and feminine that gets the best, most sustainable results for the least amount of effort. Like we don't have to put a lot of work into it. Once we have that way of relating um, put into place, then it's easy. It just happens. It just is an easy flow. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, having married my third husband, my best husband ever, BHE, uh, when Venus and Mars and the Sun were conjunct in the underworld in 2006, they were in Libra. And we just keep, it just gets easier and better and more fun and more exciting all the time. This works. We chose to get married at that time specifically because we knew Venus and Mars were sourcing a new way of doing relationship with the sun at that time. So it just so happened to be that it worked out beautifully for us to do that. So highly recommend it. We will be married 20 years in 2026.
Love that.
So Venus in the underworld must surrender and die to who she thought she was so she can be reborn to who she really is. We've talked about this before. And so in that process of letting go, she's learning and remembering how to grieve all that she has lost personally and all the losses happening on a collective level. So what are our personal losses and what are our collective losses that have been taking place? And how do we give ourselves permission to grieve those losses? That is part of the uh, process of being in the underworld, is to giving ourselves permission to do that. So in the Nana story, this is related to the death of an age, preparing for a new time through that death and rebirth. And so how are we can, I mean, I feel like hopefully we're able to grieve what has been so that we can open to receive what's the new that's coming. And when we think about the sun, I mean, Saturn, Neptune conjunction happening on February 20th, right after Venus rises in the evening sky. at and they're at zero Aries, that beginning point. It's like the birth of something new. And the 165-year cycle and 30-year cycle has not come together at the zero Aries point in thousands of years. This is a big deal, so big. It's like, whoa, how are we showing up to be a part of this new beginning, to be consciously working with our intention, grieving and letting go of what we need to let go of, and being open to receive what's new that's coming. So Mars in the underworld, of course, is dying to the old ways of masculinity that are no longer sustainable, including power, control, domination, and success at the expense of those who are seen as lesser, unimportant, expendable. That has been such a feature of the patriarchal culture. Now is the time of the sacred feminine to feel all the feelings he has previously been unwilling to feel or not given permission to feel. Because in the male dominated culture, it's like you just have to be strong and keep going, and you never get to feel what you feel. So this is the time for Mars, for the masculine. That's the masculine within both men and women. So being willing to feel what we haven't been willing to feel before. Anyway, this can include grief, vulnerability, empathy, and that had to be suppressed in order to be what the culture said was the way for a man to be. So that is our opportunity. So we could say this is opening the way for the sacred masculine to be genuine hero, genuine protector of family, home, and our beloved earth, and a genuinely good partner to the feminine, to the divine feminine. They can be genuinely good partners to each other.
Hmm.
And both Venus and Mars are in the underworld together, creating a wondrous opportunity of co-creating a sacred union that expresses as wholeness. Because it's not about one or the other. It's about, and again, like I said, that Rowena Patty Kreider called it synarchy, not matriarchy, not patriarchy, but synarchy, the synastry of the two working together. And this wholeness of both coming together to create an even greater wholeness. This is our opportunity. This is what's um, possible at this time with this union of Venus and Mars. So on January 6th, when they have the conjunction with Venus and the sun are exact, and then Mars they're all at 16 degrees Capricorn, which is pretty amazing. And there's the star called Vega that's at 15 degrees Capricorn. And Vega is one of the magical stars of the ancient alchemists. And this, when a planet was passing by this star in the same astrological degree, um, alignment, this was when they would be doing their big ceremonies, making talismans, elixirs, potions, creating intentions, and doing their magical work. And so this is the opportunity that we have as well. And of course, we won't see Vega at the time, but we can know Vega is there. And it's also around the time that the sun has just the day before been exactly conjunct Vega. And so we to work with these energies, and the ancient alchemists saw it as whenever they were within 6 degrees, and all of these are within 1 degree, all three planets. I mean, this is like such a powerhouse, and Vega is the star of destiny. It is considered a very fortunate star about manifesting harmony, artistic talents, kind nature, along with an eye for detail and balance. And so when we incorporate this understanding, Vega is the star that our entire solar system is moving toward. So that's why it's considered this. It's like we're moving away from Sirius and moving towards Vega. And Vega was the pole star 13,000 years ago and will be the pole star again in 13,000 years. It's been a very important star throughout time. So this is just something else for us to know that these energies are super amped up and super amazing. So,
Yes, and Doreen, correct. It is 2026, January 6th, 2026.
oh,
2025 is just a
yep,
typo.
yep, yep.
It happens. We've had a lot of time issues with this class in particular for
I
some
know,
reason.
I know.
So, yeah.
I'm still in
Yes.
2025. I forgot to put 2026. Oops.
Yeah. But exactly. This January 6th coming in just a very short time.
Yeah. Okay, so the other thing that's happening is Mercury is in an exact alignment with Nunki. Nunki is the vein of the arrow. It's like where the archer's pulling the arrow back on the bow, and the arrow is pointed directly at galactic center. So this is an ancient Babylonian and actually Sumerian. I think the name Nunki is a Sumerian name or it's a Babylonian name. I can't remember. But anyway, it was seen as in the ancient Babylonian text as the star of the proclamation of the sea, the ocean, I guess. I don't know what they meant by that. But anyway, thought to be a link between the constellation of the sea goat, the water bear, and the fish, because that's the planets are then moving into those constellations from that area of the sky. And it's linked with optimism, faith, truth, and knowledge. And so it's representing the celestial sea, or I guess maybe that's what Nunki is means. But anyway, with Mercury, the messenger, right there with Nunki, the vein of the arrow pointed to galactic center, then this is adding to the magic available in this cosmic window. And the exact Sun-Mars conjunction is on January 9th at 19 degrees, and Venus is still at 19 degrees as well. It's just like, whoa, how is this like a conference coming, they're just all coming together to confer about how are we taking us into a new time. So,
I love that they're like staying at the same degrees for so many days all together.
yeah, exactly. So then this is just to show you Venus on the horizon on February 17th. The moon is very close, also there. Mercury is also still very close. And something that's very interesting is that in the story of Inanna, Ninshabar is the one she speaks to and tells, if I don't come back, send help. And and then Ninshabar is the first one she sees when she comes back. And so in this particular Venus cycle, the one that started in March of 2025, the one that starts closest to the spring equinox or the March equinox in the spring in the northern hemisphere, then this is the one that they actually designed the story to represent. And here's Ninjabar right there when she comes up. Like, oh, okay. So anyway, and the and she's coming up out of the underworld. So this out of this time, out of time, unexplainable experience that does not fit in the parameters of ordinary time. And she's coming up into the evening sky. She's gone through her shamanic death and rebirth. She's done her alchemical transformation. She's been letting go and she's been trusting the process. So she's ready. And Ninjabar is there to greet her. And we also have Neptune and Saturn not far from both Venus and Mercury at 0 degrees Aries. They are at the 0 degrees Aries point, and they're about to make their exact conjunction. They're within minutes of making their exact conjunction. So again, wow.
Okay, so just to, we've been looking at still slides. We're just going to switch the share and we're just going to look at this in kind of real time in Stellarium, astronomy software. So everybody can see that. I'm just going to make it full screen for me here. And we can see. So here is January 1st, right? You can see the date and time down here. And here's the horizon line. So I'm just showing it. So here's the sun with Venus and Mars, almost essentially right now. And we're just going to move through so you can kind of see how they start getting closer to each other until here is this meeting on the 6th. And then the 7th, see, they're just like all right on top of each other. And the 8th, they start to separate. This is how Venus is moving now into the evening star side. Mars is moving into the morning star side. And you can see them start to separate, right? Here we are, the 11th. They're still really close together and continue moving. And if we span out, I brought it in close, but you can still see right here on the horizon line, look how close they still are together. So I just wanted to like give a little kind of moving visual so that we could see that all together, putting it all together essentially. So here we are back to our slides. And so astrology life coaching, right? That's what I specialize in is like using the astrology to like make these changes in our lives when we're talking about being in the underworld and this opportunity. Like, how do we actually start to rise to the occasion and do what is being offered to us, right? So, Venus in the underworld, Mars in the underworld is this time for shadow work, right? Reclaiming the parts of ourselves that we've separated from or we feel shame around so that we can reclaim our wholeness, right? So, the underworld is often misunderstood, right? We've kind of all been trained or conditioned that the dark is bad and the light is good. But this is really a cycle of wholeness, right? Like I mentioned before, the Chinese symbol of the yin and yang, right? Constantly turning into the other and back again, creating the one, the unity. So if we make the dark bad, then is the yin bad, right? This perspective perpetuates the idea that the feminine, the yin is bad, the yang or masculine is good, right? So the underworld is a dwelling place of healing, restoration, rejuvenation, and transformation. It's an opportunity for us to be reborn in some way and recreate ourselves in some way, right? It is a place of mending and repairing, release and renewal, right? It's that place. It's almost kind of like how we in traditional astrology make Saturn is like this malefic and Jupiter is this benefic, right? It's like, well, it's like saying like the in breath is good, but the out breath is bad, right? It's like we need both. There's a unity that happens between contraction and expansion, yin and yang, feminine and masculine, dark and light. So it takes courage to go into the underworld, to consciously choose to face our shadow, where we can uncover our greatest power and find our true inner light. When we are separating from parts of ourselves, then we can't embrace our wholeness, which is where our greatest power lies. And where that compassion and loving all the parts of ourselves that are imperfect and make mistakes, that we can stand in our authentic wholeness. When we orient ourselves towards the feminine, the dark, we find wholeness because we stop running from vital parts of ourselves. We stop running from discomfort. And that's a huge part of doing shadow work, doing our inner work, is just being able to be in discomfort at times, feel uncomfortable at times as we work through reclaiming these parts of ourselves. So we find peace in the entirety of our beings, our wholeness. And deep self love is born within. So while we have Venus and Mars, right, that's already in the underworld, a symbol of unity, wholeness, a balance of our masculine and feminine. There's an incredible, powerful time for us available right now. So, shadow work, sorry, I've got us lifted over that. Shadow work begins with integrating the two fundamental forces present in the universe, right? The contraction and expansion, the dark and the light. A conscious willingness to integrate these two forces within ourselves, reclaiming what we've buried into our shadow in shame, because we're all human, raised by humans, having human experiences, so that we could feel safe, feel accepted, feel like we belong and get love, right? That's why we calve off these pieces, parts of ourselves. So, with Venus and Mars both in the underworld together, it's a sacred time to courageously turn inward and feel what's been hidden, what we're hiding from ourselves. Shadow work, it's not about fixing ourselves, it's about remembering your wholeness. The shadow holds the parts of you that you've exiled, your power, anger, desire, grief, and truth. By facing what you've avoided, you reclaim the energy trapped in shame, fear, and self judgment. Shadow work is the path to create true inner peace. It's the way out of disconnection, alienation, and isolation. It's how you return to yourself, softened, strong, and whole once again. So while Venus and Mars journey through the underworld, traveling on the other side of the sun, we're invited to bring to light what's been hidden. Release the fear that keeps us small and reclaim the power, creativity, and love that has always been ours. That unity, the wholeness. This is essentially your call to make the unconscious conscious, right? As Carl Jung taught us, to see yourself authentically in the mirror of your shadow and find it to be an ally. And how do we do this? It starts very simplistically by just simply allowing yourself to feel what's truly present for you in snippets, in moments, in minutes of time, right? You don't have to dedicate the whole entire week because that can feel overwhelming and then we turn away from it. But it's like, whatever kind of coping mechanisms you have, like at the end of the day, you just have to have that glass of wine, or you have to start scrolling, or you turn on the TV, or, whatever things that, help you self-soothe and cope. Like, can you just take a minute or a couple of minutes and just feel, what am I wanting to avoid right now? What am I trying to get out of? It doesn't mean you have to stop all of your coping strategies this exact moment, but it's just about starting to become more conscious of what we're overriding often to get there, right? So just start with just simply feeling. There's more steps that can come from there, but I just wanted to give you like a really practical, just jumping off place of just being honest with yourself. So here are some Aries, Pisces, meta goddess questions while Venus and Mars are in the underworld. What would it take for me to trust the darkness, the stillness, the goddess of the void? Right? These are things you can ponder or write about. Even when you take that couple minutes before you kind of lean into your coping strategy, you could just write down, like, what am I feeling? No judgment, no shoulds, no having to change anything. Just honestly, what is going on for me right now? Here's another question. What would it take for me to accept and lean into whatever the underworld brings forth for me, even if I feel uncomfortable at times? What would it take for me to completely feel and embrace my shadow, right? These parts that I have separated from, I feel shame about, I don't want anyone to know about, thereby liberating myself. What would it take for me to feel and know I am moving into greater empowerment and authentic expression with every step I take?
I love that. So good. And then these are just some, it says underworld morning practice, meaning in the morning as you're waking up. Not, not that Venus is in the morning, because she's moving out of the morning into the evening. But anyway, and the idea is to keep it simple and just allow yourself to feel your feelings as you're waking up. You could also do this as you're going to bed. But and just notice as, and this is as Sheridan was mentioning, it's like, are you feeling anxious? Are you panicked? Are you scared? Are you mad? Are you hurt? Are you depressed, angry, overwhelmed, weary, drained, exhausted, uh, or anything else that might be coming up? And so you also you might be feeling happy, content, and joyful. You can go with that as well. So you might ask if there's someone or something that's irritating you. It might be in politics, it might be in work, it might be your family, it might be a relationship, it could be anything. So just noticing. And then if you're not sure what feelings to be with, ask your body what's ready to be felt or is ready to arise from deep within. and then just let your body inform you on what to go with. And then maybe you are noticing a recent painful incident or one from long ago that you're still grieving or seething over. And I'll just say I found something I wrote 25 years ago to my second husband that shocked me, and I realized that really brought up a lot of things from that part and that time of my life. And so sometimes there can be triggers that happen that help us to get, and it's like to really fully release, to give yourself permission to fully feel it so it can be released. And then you can find a way that works for you to feel what you feel. So, journaling can help, dancing can help, movement can help, lying still can help, toning, screaming, crying, howling, keening, beating on a pillow. I like that one. Sometimes it's been really helpful. Keening can be really good too, but it's sometimes depending on where you are, you might need to do it into a pillow so that people don't freak out around you. And then shaking your body, and we're going to look at that in the next slide.
And people are asking, what does keening mean? It's like that howling, crying. That's how I think of it, unless you have a different,
No, no, that's it. And that's what the in many tribal cultures, the women, when somebody died or some tragedy happened, the women would keen and howl like a high pitched, it's a high pitched wailing kind of experience. And so, and it just it lets things out of the body, and it helps to help to move it from out of you. I mean, this is the biggest challenge we have because we've learned to suppress, repress, and not express our feelings, and then they get stuck in our body. So this is about how do we get them out of our body and give permission to ourselves to feel what we feel. So this is a shaking practice. So this is something I do, and I like doing it when I wake up in the morning. Um, I don't usually do it as I'm going to bed, but like when I'm waking up in the morning while I'm still lying in bed, shaking my body, just shaking my body and shaking your hands. You can just shake your hands. You don't even have to shake your whole body. You can just shake your hands for like a minute or two, and it will and then when you stop and just rest your hands on your body, you'll feel a buzzing going through your whole body. And so this is something that helps you, and then it can help you take you into the deeper feelings that maybe you need to moan or cry or scream or sigh. But doing it with intent to feel what you feel for as long as needed or as long as you have time to feel it, because sometimes it might need more time and we come back to it later. And then once you notice the feeling has lessened or vanished altogether, you send love and light to the person or the situation, including yourself. And it may just be you, it may not be about other people. So, but just sending love and light or imagining love and light is filling that space that you just released and let go of. And so there's lots of layers to grief and pain. So revisit or check in each morning, allowing whatever feelings are there to emerge with the intent to feel them and let them go. It helps to have that intent. It's like, and maybe we need to hang on to them for a little while, and do this process a few times, and then we can get to the point where we're able to let them go. So when the feelings are have eased, then ask the part of you that knows, and maybe you do this through meditation, through journaling, through self-reflection, through some kind of practice that works for you. What are the best activities and actions to take care of yourself for now? And then remember what your body wants may change from day to day. So in the underworld, there's no better time. And again, dancing, moving, releasing stuck emotions, shaking your hands, shaking your whole entire body helps get it out. There's been books that have been written about shaking practice, and there's a link here that will be in the PDF that you can see the article and the books that have been written on the healing power of shaking.
yeah. So Karen, we will be sharing the slides in a PDF so you can access the links. And then also like rocking, humming, there's so many different ways just to like move and allow the emotions, right? Motion move through and out of your body. So around February 17th, Venus will rise into the western evening sky after the sun sets, and this is the beginning of Venus's evening star phase. So here's an image of evening star Venus with the moon that I took some time ago. And We offer Venus Alchemy, a ceremonial journey, right? One of our missions at Venus Alchemy is to inspire people to engage the 19-month cycle of Venus as a ceremonial initiatory rite of passage with the divine feminine. We want to share the power of ceremonially reenacting this Venus initiation, both personally and collectively, as our ancestors all did in some way. We are passionate about empowering the divine feminine within each of us, called by the goddess, both in our personal lives and the world at large. And we offer an initiatory journey in real time through the entire Venus cycle that we've talked about, guided by the ancient Sumerian telling of the goddess Inanna, which we've been talking about today as well. So, the Venus journey is a ceremony. Do you feel called to experience a deeper sense of self love and personal sovereignty as an expression of the divine feminine within you? And do you feel called to empower the divine feminine in the world, collectively ushering her back into her rightful place within humanity? Do you feel called to support the healing of the feminine and the masculine so both may live in collaborative harmony, like we've been talking about today? Do you feel called to enjoy the support of a ceremonial community and an ancient ceremonial practice that is honoring the divine feminine to honor everyone in connecting with their own inner power and wisdom? And finally, do you feel called to experience a direct and personally empowering experience of the Venus cycle in all her phases and possibilities, encoded with the keys to personal and planetary ascension contained within the story of Inanna? So,
Somebody
our
said what
Aries,
somebody
yep.
asked what gate Venus is in, and she's not at a gate. The gates happen in the morning sky and the evening sky. In the underworld, she's just in the underworld. She's not at a gate. But the Venus moon conjunctions represent the Venus chakra gates. And that's only after she's gone direct in the morning sky and before she goes retrograde in the evening sky when there's Venus moon conjunctions. And there's usually 7 or 8 of them. So just wanted to clarify that.
So, our Aries Pisces Venus Meta Goddess evening star journey is beginning, and we would love to have you join us as we do ceremony with the ancient ways of honoring the Venus cycle. Tune into Venus as the evening star and move through these gates that Amanda was asking about. Reclaim our rightful power within each of our chakras, deepen our connection with the divine feminine, journey with a supportive and fun community, and support the re enlivening of the divine feminine coming back into our world. And what you receive during the Evening Star journey is we have monthly live 90-minute classes with ceremonies for each chakra gate, and they're all recorded if you can't join us live. We also have connection groups we do at the end if you want to stay a little later and connect with your other Venus alchemists. We have videos at each chakra gate and how to work with them. We have guided meditations, invocations, handouts of these beautiful handouts of star maps, Venus gates, chakra information, ceremonial suggestions, and more. We always offer suggested deepening practices or home play. You have the option to have a Venus buddy to go through the journey with you. We have a private Facebook group where you can post insight, ask questions, get support, as well as see what others are sharing. We have lots of bonus videos describing the whole Venus cycle, how it relates to the Inanna story, bonus audio meditations to support your journey, and then all kinds of audio, video, and handout packages as well. So, this Aries Pisces goddess Venus evening star journey, we are so honored to share this powerful alchemical ceremonial journey with anyone who feels called to join us. You can learn more at venusalchemy.com/Aries hyphen Pisces hyphen evening hyphen star hyphen 2026, or I can put the link in the chat. It'll also be on the replay page. So the early bird price before the beginning of February is 240 for the whole 8-month journey, or you can do a 3 payments plan of $95 each. And that is, oh, thank you, Danielle. She already put it into the chat for us. So that
Okay.
is everything that we wanted to share with you. We've gone over an hour, but we're happy to stay if you have any questions or comments or anything you want to ask or share in any way. We appreciate you being here. If you do have a question, you can put it into the chat, but you're also welcome to just raise your little avatar hand, or you can even unmute yourself. If you raise your actual hand, I may not see everyone on the screen.
It should put them at the front. So we have Faye.
Yeah, there we go. Hi, Faye.
Hi. Thank you for a lovely presentation. I just wanted to let you know that I put down my beloved Ripley this morning.
Oh,
Um, so this is a really powerful um, initiation for me. Um, it was a sacrifice that I made. Um, he was really he was ready. I don't know if I was, but he was ready. And I have pneumonia, so I'm
oh,
realizing that I've got to be very careful to process this grief in such a way that it does not stay and get deep inside of me. But I'm looking forward to experiencing myself without him. He was almost 18. Um, and I will be thinking about him on the 6th and 7th, and how I might be able to experience myself in a new way. And this is changing my whole family, and it will be good for my husband as well. You know, all of it, the timing was ready, and I just wanted to share that with you because this community means a lot to me. And I've learned so much about myself through the journey of Anana. And I anybody who is thinking about doing this, I would highly recommend you do it, um, because there is a lot to learn. And I just wanted to say how much I love you all. And my heart is full, and and I know that I'll feel a little guilty. I feel a little guilty, but it's the most important thing I could have done. So it happened this morning.
Oh,
Anyhow, thank
if there
you.
was anything I could say to release you from that guilt, I would.
I
But I don't
know.
know what that might be. But I'm sure you did the right thing for both, for all, it sounds like. And we just have loved having you in our Venus Alchemy community. And we didn't pay her for that solicitation.
yeah.
Thank you, Faye. Love you so much.
Thank you, Kaylin.
Oh, Faye,
Thank
I'm
you.
so sorry.
Thank
My
you,
heart goes
Sheridan.
out to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for having the courage to come and just share what's happening, like for
Yeah.
real with you in this moment. I so appreciate and honor that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you. I see Susanna asks, what means this cap conjunction for relationships? I would say no karma and trauma bonds, but dharma and to co-create and for finances. So essentially, we talked about how Venus and Mars coming together in the underworld is this amazing time to like balance and bring more unity into our masculine and feminine expression. So first, that obviously is to start with us, and then you can create that within your relationships. Um, and then finances, I mean, that's an interesting, I'm not sure how to exactly answer that unless you have something that you want to add to that, Kaylin. But I
Well,
still think it all comes back to like the wholeness and doing our work is the only thing that will actually shift things for us financially.
right. I mean, Capricorn is about how are we co-creating our existing structure and reality. So how are we taking responsibility for our finances? Are we paying attention to them? Are we being conscientious about how we are co-creating with that? Plus everything. I mean, it's like our whole entire structural reality. Capricorn is most happy when it's done in a way that's effective, efficient, and gets the job done with the least amount of effort and is sustainable into the future generations. So whether that's uh, finances or relationships or work or whatever it might be, that's what Capricorn's most interested in. And so so a question we could all be with is how do we create that? How do we recognize what doesn't work and let it go and move towards what is working, or maybe discover what is working and put our time and energy into that, because that's the opportunity we have right now to create it in a whole new way.
Yeah, well said. And Roxy, what a question, what would be an action step for us to do on January 6th or 7th? I mean, any of the things that we've suggested, the practices, the questions, the journaling, any of that, as well as I mean, I'm going to say like feel what you are really actually feeling. You know, even if it's just in snippets and minutes and moments, right? Because that can be a tall order for a whole entire 2 days, but just to allow yourself to be honest and authentic just with yourself.
Yeah, and feel like you can also feel into what would you want to be starting to co-create? What would you want to be moving toward? So we have to let go of what's in the way before we can move towards something new. But what do you want to move towards? What gets you excited? What lights you up? What is something that you really want to put your energy and attention on? And so taking the time to feel and grieve and be mad or whatever we need to be and letting go. And then also, what do we want to move towards? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you wrote, Roxy, that it's like, this is all happening now, right? It's like
So she
we're
said,
there.
it looks like we will begin feeling it days before, according to the moving astrological chart you shared. We're already feeling it. I know I've been feeling it since November. So, having had quite a few very challenging events that took place that forced me into feeling things I didn't really think I needed to feel because I thought I had done with them. And then I realized I wasn't. So,
Exactly. Agreed. Like I've had so many people, like clients, in my moon sister circle, like reaching out, like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Like things feel so intense right now. And that's a characteristic of Venus and Mars moving through the underworld together. It brings up a lot of stuff.
yeah.
And that
And
Don,
was
then when
good.
they like come out, there's like going to be with Pluto. I mean, there's a lot going on. Yes,
I see
Helen.
Helen raised her hand, but Dawn's been also raising her hand like this. So,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of was my question because it seems like right now being in the underworld, it's everything was just leading us up, even though there were things that were getting unpacked as we were coming down. But this really seems to be quite an intense underworld. I think I've had most of my openings and epiphanies and bringing up all that trauma stuff and having to deal with it seems to be happening like right now. So is that like
Yeah.
a nor that's okay.
Full answer, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not alone, Dawn. You're not
I
alone.
know. Yeah, I absolutely understand it. It's like things will trigger me. My grandson asked me yesterday, "Do you have a nickname?" And I said, "Yeah, my nickname was Missy when I was a kid." And he goes, and he's 6 years old. He goes, "Missy Pissy," and it took me back to childhood immediately. And I'm like, "Oh, that hurt," and I had to go in the bathroom and cry. And I mean that's just like a small portion of things that are being unpacked. And what's really nice right now too is my husband's a Pisces like I am, and so I'm able to like talk to some of the traumas. He's my third husband too. Third time is a charm. um but it's been nice to be able to open up about some of the traumas that I have been hiding in shame and guilt and hiding from myself. And it's like I didn't realize um how much stuff we do stuff, and that is energy and motion, emotion,
Yeah.
and going, okay, that's not what I want anymore, so what do I want? And I read a quote, something about the traumas that you feel. You can't always change them. You can transform them, but it's learning to live in those little glimmers of happiness when they come, and holding on to those, and expanding those a little bit more instead of carrying around the stuff that we've carried around for a lifetime. So thank you. It's
Thank you, John. That was brilliant. And Helen, did you still want to say something?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to thank you both for reminding us to feel the feelings because it's like it doesn't seem to matter how many times I tell myself or like I'm reminded of that. It's like it's always like, oh yeah, of course, because I've just been feeling so kind of irritable and angry about like really minor, small, silly kind of things. And I've been saying to myself, well, is that appropriate? Like kind of judging myself. And yeah, it's just that I need the constant permission almost to really feel that feeling of anger in my case right now. Yeah, and kind of explore it and feel it. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that.
Not always easy, not always fun, but oh so liberating when we get it done.
And Kathleen, I saw that you asked a question, but I don't exactly understand. This will be your third Venus cycle in Capricorn. I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to. So if you want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to ask more specifically so I can understand.
Sure. Hi. So, Sheridan, I actually had a reading with you in 2024, and we talked a little bit about um, my Venus transition. It's just that on the slide where Kaylin was speaking, where this happened in the sign of Capricorn, and it happens every 32 years. I was born in 1962, so that would have been my first time, and then 94, and now it's happening again. And I've always wanted to have a reading where somebody specifically talked about the stellium in Aquarius. And I was delighted to hear it, that at least it's being talked about, just kind of wondering. Um, like we have different eras with different children being born and the gifts that they bring to that time. But what my question is here, does this make this more significant for me, um, because I was born during that cycle? I guess that's it. And I don't know if it does or not, because I
Yes, it
was,
does. Yes, it
it,
does. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Whenever you come back and the 32-year mark, so at age 32 and 64, the Venus Mars return together, and age 96. So it'll happen again if you get to live that long.
Well, my mother did, so I think I
Oh, well,
can.
there you go. Yeah. Hopefully that's the case. So it's definitely, uh, I found my age. I didn't know about any of this Venus Mars stuff and when I was 32, but I was going through one of the biggest transitions of my life. So when I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, it was happening for me, even though I had no idea about it. And then at age 64, it was a very different experience. I had grown and evolved a lot, and I was in a much happier time in my life, but it was still potent. It was still happening.
Mm.
So the and it can start way before you have that birthday. Because for me, I'm an evening star, so the cycle starts for me almost a year and a half before I actually have that birthday. So
Okay.
yeah.
I'm an evening star too. I'm really considering joining this. I mean, I've been listening to you guys for a few years now on Astrology Hub and also on your own platforms. And I don't know. It just seems like it must be the time. Yeah. So I'm so grateful that I didn't even sign up for this and I got an email for it. It's like, okay, that seems like a party. So anyway. I'm looking
We'd
forward
love
to
to
it.
have you join us. We would love it because especially since you're in this is the third round for, well, you were born into it, then you have this first round when you
Yeah.
have any awareness about it, and now this is the second round with even more awareness about it. So it would be awesome to have you.
It's very deep information about this Venus cycle. And I applaud you too for making it comprehensible to the rest of us because wow, it can get complex, but it's also those little tiny idiosyncrasies make it so fascinating when you talk about what it touches upon. So anyway, thank you.
Mm.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Kathleen. Nice to see you again. And if you do happen to join us, we have lots of time for Q&A at the end of the classes and in the group. So um, you're welcome to ask more specifically about like what's happening for you or your chart. We talk about all kinds of things. So um, yeah. All right. Well, I think we're good. Does anybody else have a last minute burning question before we,
Jump in quick.
yeah, before we conclude? Oh, thank you all for being here.
Yeah. I love all
What?
the hearts. The hearts have been so fun to watch. Thank you
Yeah,
all for sending the hearts. That's so good.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the ones that like explode, that's
I love those
awesome.
too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we wish you well through the rest of the journey through the underworld with blessings, so much love. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of our mission to bring the Venus cycle back into the world and honoring our sacred feminine in such a powerful way so that we can bring more balance to the masculine and the feminine in our world and within ourselves and our wholeness. Anything you want to add,
I
Kim?
love what you just said. I don't know if I have anything to add to that. So yeah, so grateful for everybody and thank you for helping us and supporting us and just showing up and being present for what we have to share because it makes it exciting for us and that we get to share it with you is
Yeah.
awesome. So thank you.
All right. Sending lots of love, wishing you well. Bye.